He just finished unaliving his entire family with his own hands. But instead of rushing to flee the crime scene, this man who committed an atrocious crime casually takes a shower. He trims his hair, shaves his beard, and puts on contact lenses. After cleaning himself up, his previously unkempt look completely transforms, replaced by a dashing, impeccable social elite. When he walks back into the living room, the place has clearly turned into a straight-up slaughterhouse. The bodies of his closest relatives are scattered across various corners in extremely contorted positions, yet he completely turns a blind eye to it. He calmly sets a chair upright, adjusts the cushion, and returns the telephone receiver back to its cradle. Throughout the entire process, not a single ripple of emotion shows on his face. After all, he has already executed 6 whole family massacres just like this, and his targets are widowed single mothers. Having made his escape, the man arrives by the open sea. As the suitcase containing all of his incriminating evidence plunges into the water, it does not sink immediately, but instead drifts and rocks along with the waves. The man stares at it completely motionless. At this moment, what the man is bidding farewell to is not just a suitcase, but his own dark, shameful past. As the suitcase grows smaller and smaller under his gaze, a faint, barely perceptible smile creeps onto the corner of his mouth. Time passes in the blink of an eye, and a year later, the man, now going by the alias Jerry, successfully finds himself a brand new target. This demon, who once committed monstrous sins, transforms overnight into a tender husband in the eyes of his new wife, a gold medal employee on his company's wall of honor, and a perfect leader praised by everyone in the community. But what nobody knows is that beneath his seemingly flawless exterior lies a soul that is brutal to the absolute core. So here comes the million-dollar question. How long can his despicable nature stay hidden this time? And why on earth does he repeat this unforgivable deed over and over again? This is a story adapted from real-life events. In 1971, John List takes the lives of his family, and after evading the law for a full 18 years, he is finally busted by the police. In court, he confesses his motive for the deed. That reason is absolutely laughable to the extreme. Back then, he was on the brink of bankruptcy. So to prevent his family from doing anything shameful due to the impending poverty, he chooses to end their lives ahead of time. Perhaps because reality is just too surreal, the screenwriters make drastic, sweeping changes to the original story when penning down the script. They free the entire narrative from the shackles of absurdity, elevating it into an ultimate showdown between ideal and reality. Today, let us dive right into the 1987 classic horror flick, The Stepfather. In the moments to follow, I will take you step by step into the mind of this monstrous villain, touching the darkest, most decayed corners of his soul. The story picks up right where the intro leaves off. Even though Jerry wins the approval of most people, his new stepdaughter, Stephanie, does not accept him at all. There are 2 reasons for this. First, because Stephanie's biological father just passed away a year ago, making it impossible for her to understand how her mother could jump into a new relationship so quickly. And second, because she always feels that a vibe of deep uneasiness radiates from this stepfather of hers from time to time. However, being just a kid, she has absolutely no way to sway the emotional matters of adults. Therefore, Stephanie makes a bold move by starting to stir up trouble at school, purely for the sake of getting herself expelled.
Expelled? You're kidding.
Amid Jerry's pressing questions, Stephanie takes the opportunity to drop the second half of her plan. Jerry's loss of composure at this moment goes way beyond what you could call an overreaction. And beneath the sheer shock written all over his face, his past motives for his evil deeds are laid bare. As for what that specific motive is, we will get into that a bit later. Stephanie's plan falls through, but what Jerry doesn't realize is that his act of forcing Stephanie to stay will ultimately push him into a dead end. At a neighborhood gathering a few days later, the neighbors are casually discussing a family massacre from last year. The second Jerry hears this, his entire body freezes up. His gaze locks onto that specific report in the newspaper as the past rushes back into his mind like a tidal wave. While the neighbors chat about the fine details of the case as if it is nothing, Jerry's back is already completely drenched in cold sweat. Although he is lucky that his picture is not published, the fact that the newspaper is digging up a 1-year-old case means they must be plotting something. And that turns out to be exactly the case. A private investigator named Jim never stops digging into this case, trying to track down the perp who went by the alias Henry Morrison. because the family that got unalived belonged to Jim's own sister. But since the monster cleaned up his tracks way too perfectly, Jim has been struggling to find any useful clues. So he has no choice but to beg a friend at the newspaper to republish the case, hoping to bait the hidden threat into slipping up. However, his friend is just a low-level employee at the press, so even if he risks getting fired, the most he can do is reprint the article because the higher-ups will absolutely never let a photo of an uncatchable villain waste their precious column space. As they talk, Jerry plays it cool by folding the newspaper into a hat and casually handing it over to a little boy. But his unnatural behavior is caught entirely by Stephanie's sharp eyes. Once Stephanie gets her ice cream, Jerry storms off to the basement in a fit of rage. Just as Jerry's emotions are about to boil over, he notices Stephanie's presence. With just a few quick steps, Jerry manages to cook up a near-perfect excuse. On the surface, Stephanie seems convinced, but in reality, her internal suspicions about her stepfather deepen by another layer. So after the guests leave, Stephanie tracks down that exact newspaper Jerry tried so desperately to hide. Despite her best friend's heavily sarcastic remarks, Stephanie sticks firmly to her bold theory.
So what are you gonna do, Nancy Drew?
I'm writing this letter to the Seattle Examiner, and I asked him to send me a picture of Henry Morrison.
But to her absolute shock, Jerry beats her to the punch by intercepting the mail and seeing the photo first. Jerry freezes on the spot as a cold chill creeps from his fingertips all the way to the top of his head. The ironclad defense line he painstakingly built, the very dam holding back his secrets, collapses right before his eyes at this very moment. Who on earth could be investigating him? A question he doesn't even need to think twice to answer. Jerry turns around without changing his expression, keeping his pace steady and unhurried. Yet beneath his calm exterior, a violent undercurrent is already raging inside him. For the first time in a whole year, the urge to take a life has awakened once again.
Jerry, honey.
Yes?
Dinner in 15 minutes.
His wife's voice instantly snaps the enraged Jerry back to reality. Things have not reached the point of no return just yet, and there is still room to fix this. Time flies, and the next day arrives. Stephanie finds the letter she has been desperately waiting for inside the mailbox. However, the moment she eagerly tears open the envelope, an undeniable wave of disappointment instantly washes over her face. Clearly, the photo inside that letter is a forgery planted by Jerry. He firmly believes that under his masterful plotting, the crisis will blow over just like that. Little does he know, the sudden arrival of a strange client named Bondurant instantly turns Jerry into a paranoid wreck once again. From the second he steps into the house, Bondurant doesn't say a single word about the property, paying extra close attention to Jerry's personal background instead. As a fugitive on the run, if Jerry lacked even this basic level of alertness, the grass on his grave would probably be waist-high by now. These words allow Jerry to catch a slip-up, because during their conversation just moments ago, Bondurant clearly stated he wasn't married. Nothing matters anymore since Jerry is now completely certain that Bondurant is definitely bad news. Convinced that Bondurant is investigating him, he attacks Bondurant with a wooden plank. At this point, Bondurant is still desperately trying to talk his way out of it, but Jerry's questioning was nothing more than a mere formality, because the exact second he deemed Bondurant a threat, Bondurant was already a dead man walking. Bondurant is brutally unalived by Jerry with a wooden plank. Jerry searches Bondurant's entire body and finally figures out his true identity. It turns out Bondurant is actually Stephanie's therapist. Ever since Stephanie began suspecting her stepfather of being a monster, she has been subjected to endless mockery. Left with no other choice, she poured out her wildest theories to Dr. Bondurant. Originally, Dr. Bondurant didn't buy Stephanie's story either, but out of professional ethics, he decided to check Jerry out in person. But to his absolute surprise, Jerry rejected his invitation to meet, which immediately caused Bondurant to sense that something is off. So Bondurant disguised himself as a client to lure Jerry, who works as a real estate agent, out for a meeting. Jerry stuffs Bondurant's stiffening corpse into the car and presses his foot firmly down on the gas pedal. Next, Jerry shoves a crumpled ball of scrap paper into the gas tank, lights it up, and starts the engine. The car lunges forward like a startled beast, plunging straight down the cliff. The blazing flames illuminate Jerry's face as he cracks a chilling, bone-deep smile. Jerry turns around and steps onto the highway with a light, carefree stride. whistling a casual tune that swirls in the night breeze like an ordinary guy out for a post-dinner stroll.
I'm sorry, honey, I have some bad news about Dr. Bondurant. There was an accident sometime last night out by the highway. He lost control or something. His car went off the road. He's dead, Steph. But he knows. Sorry.
With Bondurant gone, Stephanie has no one left to confide in, and without realizing it, her inner defenses begin to soften. The past that haunted her for a whole year slowly fades away, and she actually attempts to accept Jerry's presence. And this is exactly the outcome Jerry has been dreaming of. However, fate refuses to play along, and at this exact juncture, an unexpected accident strikes out of nowhere, throwing everything right back into the dark. One day, Stephanie kisses her boyfriend Paul goodbye at the front door, and Jerry just happens to catch them red-handed. Nobody understands why Jerry is making such a mountain out of a molehill, let alone where all this explosive rage is coming from. Except from this very moment, Jerry's dormant urge to strike is mysteriously awakened, and it is absolute. As the story progresses to this point, all of Jerry's issues are laid out flat on the table. As for why he wants to take them out, the previous plot has already planted the complete answer. To sum it up in one sentence, Jerry is a total super monster, packing narcissistic, paranoid, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorders all in one. A perfect family and strict order are the illusions he chases like a madman, and the moment a tiny crack appears between reality and his dream, he will not hesitate to smash everything in front of him to pieces. Jerry's pathological obsession with order is glaringly obvious right from the opening scene of the movie. Even when corpses are strewn all over the house, the only things that catch his eye are a knocked-over chair and a displaced phone. So what exactly is the dream setup for a perfect family in Jerry's mind? It means a family of 3 sticking together, a deeply devoted couple living in harmony, and a kid who obeys at home while maintaining straight A's at school. That explains why he finds it so utterly unacceptable when he hears that Stephanie got expelled. And when he learns about Stephanie dating, Jerry straight up loses his mind. Originally, with only Stephanie being a thorn in his side, Jerry could barely tolerate it by taking things slow. But now that even his wife refuses to back him up, Jerry's patience is completely drained. He quits his job and puts on a completely different face once again. Afterwards, Jerry heads to another town to secure a new job, doing all of this solely to hunt down his next perfect family. But while Jerry focuses entirely on his own deployment, he has no clue that this time around, karma will not let him walk away so easily. Private investigator Jim notices an inconspicuous magazine at the crime scene, which has a page torn out of it. So he buys an identical copy of the magazine at a store, discovering that the missing content was a promotional ad for the neighboring town. Jim makes a bold guess that Jerry has most likely moved to that neighboring town, and facts prove him right, as a simple round of questioning and investigation quickly locks his sights onto a prime suspect who looks just like his brother-in-law. Yet despite Jim's lightning-fast reflexes, he is ultimately a step too late, because at this very moment, Jerry is already fully prepared to make a move on his own family.
I called your office today.
I didn't get a message.
Of course you didn't get a message. They said you stopped working there several days ago.
Seeing that his secret is exposed, Jerry still desperately tries to play it cool. He even prepares to place a call to his company to clear his name, leaving everyone clueless as to what kind of plot he is cooking up in his mind. Jerry completely reveals his savage true colors. The undeniable shock written all over Susan's face acts like a mirror, reflecting the deep chill down in her heart. This man she used to live with day and night now looks so alien that it terrifies her. Susan is now like a bird trapped in a cage, with Jerry's robust frame acting like an iron wall, leaving her with absolutely zero chance of escape, no matter how hard she struggles. Susan collapses to the floor unconscious. Jerry then digs out every single knife in the house, weighing them one by one to pick the most comfortable handle, all to send off the person he claims to love the most. But right at this moment, Stephanie comes home. Jerry instantly pivots his target, preparing to take out the much bigger threat, Stephanie, first. And right when the girl's life hangs by a thread, the doorbell rings at the worst possible time. Jim has finally arrived. When this former brother-in-law duo meets face to face, what kind of explosive sparks will fly? By the time Jim realizes what is happening, it is already too late. Jim dies just like that, his eyes full of pure resentment. After tracking this guy relentlessly for a whole year, he never expected it would end like this. With Jim out of the way, Jerry locks his eyes back onto Stephanie. Stephanie locks herself inside the bathroom. But how long can a flimsy wooden door like this stop an enraged Jerry? Stephanie hits Jerry's arm with a shard of glass, but this not only fails to inflict any real damage on him, but instead ignites a roaring fire of rage inside his chest. Backed into a corner, Stephanie scrambles up to the attic, trying to escape that murderous glare that looks ready to swallow her alive. But the relentless Jerry catches up with her in the blink of an eye. The attic is only so big, so Jerry tracking down Stephanie is nothing more than a matter of time. But this time, karma decides to take Stephanie's side. Just as her life hangs by a thread, Jerry accidentally crashes through the weak floorboards right into the bathroom below. Stephanie initially intends to flee amid the chaos, but in a flash, Jerry completely vanishes. Stephanie tiptoes forward bit by bit, every single nerve in her body stretched tight like a fully drawn bowstring. She is absolutely terrified, as if Jerry could pounce out from some random corner at any given second.
Stephanie? Stephanie!
Mommy?
Just as Jerry is about to harm Stephanie, Susan suddenly appears and fires 2 shots at him.
No, Jerry!
But bullets always run out eventually. Right now, this knife resting on the floor will decide who turns into a corpse and who makes it out alive. At this moment, it is no longer just a knife, but more like a lighthouse in the dark, or a tightening noose. It draws 2 wounded beasts, crawling towards the exact same finish line. And that is where our story wraps up. The true horror of The Stepfather lies in how it makes the audience deeply realize that far more chilling than any scary monster are the twisted souls hiding in plain sight behind a gentle mask. Throughout the entire movie, leading man Terry O'Quinn delivers a performance free of over-the-top acting or hysterical screaming. Yet he still brings a psycho suffering from multiple personality disorders vividly to life. His perfect disguise in public versus his explosive rage in private blends seamlessly without a single shred of disconnect. He breathes soul into the character of Jerry, making him much more than just a well-dressed monster on screen, as if he could be absolutely anyone in your daily life. The movie is an undeniable success, raking in $2.5 million at the box office back in 1987 on a budget of just $1.2 million. And the impact it brings reaches way beyond just the box office numbers. The writers use a mostly fictional story to deconstruct a brand of perfection that only exists in ideals. Behind the so-called perfect family lies nothing more than a pathological desire for control and insane paranoia. Real families are never perfect, as they are packed with friction, communication, and compromises. And those who single-mindedly chase perfection will either end up perpetually disappointed or destroy it with their own hands. Where does Jerry's obsession with a perfect family come from anyway? Laughably enough, it stems from a children's TV show from decades ago, along with the warm and harmonious scenes of other families he happens to witness. However, if the pursuit of perfection turns into a twisted obsession, you are essentially crafting a prison for your own life with your very own hands. All right, that is all for today. See you guys in the next one.